Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube web zone. A couple of years or so ago I put out a video where I rewired a STRAT to emulate some of Brian May's pickup settings. So basically my dad and I rewired this guitar so that we could have, you know, the bridge in the middle on in series and in phase, and the neck in the middle on series and in phase, whatever. And when you ran it through a Brian May style rig, you got a reasonably good facsimile of the sound. What I've done this time with this is a new guitar. I've rewired it slightly differently so that, well, I say again, me and my dad did it, so that we can get not only the bridge in the middle on in phase, but you can get the neck in the middle on together but out of phase. Okay, so I'll show you how all of this works in a moment, but just a little bit about the guitar itself. This is the thing. It's basically the cheapest guitar you can get on Amazon. It cost about 55 quid, I think. With delivery, I think it came to about 80 quid. So my girlfriend got me this for Christmas. And the reason for using such a cheap instrument was basically I thought, okay, well, if the wiring goes horribly wrong, I haven't ruined a decent guitar. So I didn't want to start playing around with any of my existing Strats for it to go wrong. So I started off with this. I mean, a little bit about the guitar itself. To be honest, for the money, I was actually pleasantly surprised at how good it actually is. The build quality is pretty good. I should also point out I'm not sponsored by this company. There's no paid promotion going on here. I literally just asked my other half to buy the cheapest possible electric guitar she could find on Amazon, and this was the result. But the actual build quality, considering for the price, is actually pretty good. The only things I had to do on it really was, the action was set at, it was about here, so it was set at about 1.5 miles, so I had to drop that down. I've now dropped that down to 1.5 to 2 mil, which is where I like it. The neck itself was reasonably, sort of well aligned. It was straight. There was a tiny little bit of relief in it, but it didn't want any tweaking or anything like that, so I've left the neck alone. You can run your sort of hand up and down the edge of the fingerboard here. You don't catch any frets, or there are no sharp bits or anything like that going on. So, all things considered, it's not bad. I had to adjust the action, which I said. I also had to intonate it as well, because it wasn't intonated properly at all. I've done as best I can with that, really. The bridge is not great. The actual block, I don't know if you'll be able to see, but the block itself, it's unfair to call it a block. It's more like a wedge, but I'd expect that on a cheap guitar. It's not got a full block on it either. But the only other thing that we had to do was to actually screw the bridge in properly, because it was kind of tilted backwards like that, because the screws at this end here weren't in properly. So it kind of pitched backwards because the springs were pulling it down. But once we screwed that in, it now sits flat against the body. Otherwise, everything else I've kind of left alone. The tuning heads aren't bad. They're all metal, which I was surprised by, pleasantly surprised, because I've seen some cheap guitars where these things are plastic, but it's all metal. It's not a bad instrument, really. So what I've done, rather what me and my dad did together, in the space of about a couple of hours, 2.5 hours, I think in total it took to actually rewire this thing, is that we've added some push-pull pots here. And what I'll do is I'm just going to tilt the camera so that you can see the guitar a little bit better. So we've added some push-pull pots here. One of them, this bottom one, goes from the parallel wiring that comes with it normally and takes it to series wiring. Okay, so you go from having the 5-way selector, and it basically turns it into a 2-way selector, so you get these two on together and these two on together. There didn't seem to be an option to get all of them on at the same time. We probably could have wired it like that, but I wasn't bothered about doing it, so we left it. this one here, the second tone pot, is again another push pot, and that is the phase selector. Okay, so that takes it from being in phase to out of phase, and that only applies to these two pickups. Okay, so the phase selector, literally the wires come off these two pickups, they go into that first and then into the selector, okay, like underneath. Otherwise, the guitar itself is pretty much unmodified in terms of the actual sound that I'm going to play in a second. I'm running it into a Digitech Brian May pedal. So again, in terms of emulating Brian's tone, we're getting a little bit of help from the Digitech pedal. But otherwise, you know, I mean, if you were to run a Strat through the Digitech pedal, you'd get something close, but I'm hoping with the rewiring that I've done to get even closer still. And again, the out of phase, you wouldn't get the out of phase option on a Strat unless you rewired it, which was the whole purpose of doing this. So otherwise, as I say, I've not modified the guitar in any other way other than just the wiring, so they are the stock pickups that came in it. And the only other thing I should point out now is that when we put this in, it's actually in upside down, and that's my fault because I got it the wrong way round when we did the wiring. So this, as it is at the minute in position 5 here, is actually doing this one. So it's upside down, but we move. So I'll give you an idea of what it sounds like, and then I'll show you the switching, and we'll take it from there. So that's the bridge pickup on its own. You can hear it buzzing. I've got things plugged in here as well, so the buzzing gets worse. But again, the pickups are, I mean, to be honest, the pickups aren't bad. They're better than I was expecting them to sound, but they aren't great because they're cheap pickups. But all things considered, I don't think they sound too bad. So now we have, this is the standard Strat wiring, so we go then to these two on in parallel. This one, which is the middle pickup. We then have these two, so these two on together and in parallel. And then finally, the neck pickup on its own. So they're the basic Strats options, which you would expect, from any 5-way switch. So if we go back to this pickup down here at the bottom now, and I activate this bottom pull push pot like so. You can hear the tuning starting to go a little bit because I've been bending the strings quite a lot. Again, it's a 50 quid guitar. But now we have, these two on together and in phase. Okay, so and they're in series as well. So that's as I say, the series parallel switch at the bottom there. So you can see it's now stood proud. And we get, something reasonably like, Brian's tone. Again, this thing is helping as well, obviously, but so that's that. If we then go, and again, now this time, as I say, the 5-way switch has just become a 2-way selector. So if I change to that second setting there, there's no difference in the tone. But if I go the other way, we've now got these two on together in series. Or something like that, if I could play the right notes. Okay, so you get that very thick, very woolly kind of tone. However, if I then activate this one, we get something very familiar sounding, particularly if we go for okay, so it's not quite, it's almost there. I'd say it's about 75-80% there. Particularly when you get up to here, it's not screaming quite as much as the Red Special would, but you sort of get the effect down here. So it's close. And if I go on to this, I should have pointed out, this is on the Tie Your Mother Down setting. But if I go down one to the Bohemian Rhapsody setting, you can get closer still if you want. It really doesn't like it with the pickups. But etc. So you might be thinking, okay, what's the point? Why would you do this? One, for fun, for squits and giggles, or two, if you are looking to do this kind of thing in a live environment and a live context, you can, in theory, if you were playing something like Somebody to Love, for example, where you wanted the the bridge and the middle pickups together, and then you wanted to go straight to the solo tone, you could literally do that with one switch. Now I know, again, arguably you could say, well, it's only 2 switches that you'd have to flick on the Red Special. What if you are in a band that's doing more than that? Yes, the Red Special it's versatile, whatever. This is just a what if, can it be done kind of project. So I don't want to get bogged down in the why have you done this, you foolish man. But why not? It could be a diversion for somebody for a couple of hours. But if we take something like Somebody to Love, just as a for instance, we get into that. You might want to do something like that. You might not. I don't know. I just mainly wanted to see if it could be done, and I think it can be done. And again, for the amount of time and money it cost, I would say I forget how much these push-pull things cost, but even if they run to the cost of about like 30 quid, like the guitar cost, sort of 70, 80 quid in total, you're looking at 100 quid just for this. I mean, if you then wanted to do it on an expensive guitar, then obviously you could, but it's obviously at your own risk. The wiring diagrams, I got the wiring diagrams from premierguitar.com. I literally just googled STRAT series parallel wiring and STRAT phase switch as well, and I just combined the two. So there was one where it told you to do the series parallel switching using a 5-way switch. I should also point out this 5-way switch didn't come with the guitar, because this is one of the Fender ones that's got the pins on both sides. The one that came with it, they were all in a straight line, so we chucked that and we put a Fender one in it. So that's the only other thing we've done here. But and then this one, I mean, they're just the 3-pole on-off switches, so effectively the 2 cables come out here into this one, and there's a crossover cable in between the poles. They then go out into this one. The bottom one is a little bit more complicated because that then relates to this, but as I say, the diagrams on premierguitar.com seem to work pretty well when I combine them together into this combination. And for the length of time it took, and alright, there was a bit of precision soldering that went on, which is why I got my dad to help me with it, because he's far more experienced with a soldering iron than I am. And as a result, we managed to do it in a couple of hours. So one day I might experiment on a more expensive guitar and see what the difference is. But for now, as a project, for something that I would probably never use in a live context, this is mainly just for fun, which this guitar is actually. It's quite a bit of fun. It's just a thing that I did. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and any questions or comments or feedback or anything like that, please do stick them down in the comment section below. Thanks for checking it out. I'll see you all again.